Happy Friday, everyone. So it's time to do a newsletter. So we are getting ready for the Christmas season. Hope everybody's having a great week. And what I'm going to do today, I'm going to do a little bit that I get a lot of questions on a regular basis. So we're going to do some finishing things today. Just basic stuff, because I'm a basic guy and the stuff that I do is basic. So I'm going to show you what I use. So what we're going to do right now, is I'm going to put some sanding sealer on a piece of my this is my Select Pine that I use. So you can see it's, I just got it back from Lowe's, just a 1 foot by 4 foot board. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to brush this stuff on. Now in the past, I used spray sanding sealer, and that's fine if you want to use spray sanding sealer, but the brush stuff goes a little bit further and it's super simple to do. You can just slop it on and it lasts, you know, it's a lot cheaper. So I've just got my little pieces of tack strip that I lay down, and normally now I kind of put those down because I really don't want to take a chance and poke holes in my board, so I just set them down. This is not real critical like it is for a fine finished sign. So all I'm going to do, this is the Minwax water-based sanding sealer, and now they have an oil base and a water base, and the reason I don't have the can is because I keep it in a jar and I threw the can away. But here's what the can looks like, and they sell this at Lowe's. I printed this right off of the Minwax website. But again, I like the water base. The water base has this milky look to it. The oil base doesn't look like this. It has a whole different look to it. So I like the water base, easier cleanup, and it works just as well for me. I've tried both, and the water base works just as well as the oil base. So I like it. So this stuff is pretty thick. I think you can thin it down, but I use it full concentrate. This is probably going to be more than enough. This is the last. I got to go get some more. So all I do both sides. I'm just going to brush this on, not any particular way. Just make sure I try and get complete coverage over the whole board. And what I'm really make sure I'm critical on is the ends, the end grain, because that's where it will soak up moisture. And I don't want my board, you know, this time of year. Oh, there goes my paper. Hang on. Wind's coming up. This time of year, with the moisture and stuff, I think we got rain coming tomorrow. The moisture will soak up into the end of the board and cause it to cup and possibly warp. So there's my first coat on the one side. Now I'm just going to turn it over, slap some on the other side, and then do the ends. Again, I'm not real critical. Now, you guys can see, again, you guys can see, this is when I put the sanding sealer on. I know there are some debates on whether to put it on after you're carving. I don't like to do that. I like to get it on absolutely as soon as I get it back to the shop. I put my sanding sealer on. So there is that. Now, I put some on the ends, and I'm going to turn this kind of sideways. I'm glad I got my gloves on. And all I do here, just make sure that that end soaks up that sanding sealer. I don't want any moisture. That's where the moisture tends to get into the end of the board. And it's fairly straight right now, and I want it to stay that way. Now on the edges, I don't worry about it too much. I just, whatever drips over, it drips over. But on the ends, that's the part I'm really critical about. That's the part I really want to make sure I get coverage. Ooh, gotta stretch. I want to make sure that no moisture can get in the end of that board. And that's it. Now I will let that thing sit for, probably an hour or two, and then I'll put it up in the rack. I want to make sure that the airflow gets all the way around there, so it's up on those little pieces of tack strip. So that is pretty much it, guys. It is done. As soon as it's dry, in an hour or two, I can start making signs out of it, or I can set it up on the rack and let it sit for weeks before I make a sign out of it. But that's it as far as the sanding sealer goes. So remember, I only use the sanding sealer on pine. I don't use it on the cedar or the redwood. It's just not necessary. The reason I'm using sanding sealer, for those of you that are asking why I'm using it, is when I spray my black for either my layout or my carving, when I spray that black in there, this pine tends to bleed into the grain of the board. This sanding sealer stops that, as long as you don't overspray. Again, that's the caveat. If you overspray, even sanding sealer won't stop it from bleeding into the board. So have a light touch with those spray cans, either the ink or the Rust-Oleum primer. But this is just this is how I put my sanding sealer on. Now from this point on, then I'll do my layout, I'll do my carving, spray the black, sand it off, so everything on the surface is gone. All that sanding sealer is gone off the surface, ready to receive the finish. So anyway, so we're going to come back on right after this, and we'll do some more finishing. Be right back. Hi folks, okay, we're back. So what I've got here is I've got that sign that I've been making over the last few weeks that's actually a sign and slash bar top. I'm going to go ahead and put some more finish on this. What I've put on here so far, front, back, and all the edges, is the Minwax Spar urethane. I use gloss, but you could use satin or whatever you like, satin or semi-gloss. And I think I've got 3 coats on here. Now in between the coats, I just like hand sand it with just a little piece of 220 paper, which I'm going to do right now, and then we're going to put a brush coat on. So all I do is I just get the roughness off of there, and it really isn't very rough. You can see I just kind of go over with the grain. Then I'm going to hit the letters, just to, because what happens is when you put a finish on there, it kind of raises the grain up, and I just want to take that down and make sure that it's all fairly smooth. Now, bear in mind, guys, I am not a furniture maker. I'm not even, I consider to be a real fine woodworker. I'm a sign maker. I route signs. I just happen to have to finish them in order to make these signs so they'll go outside. So if you really want to know finishing, I'm not necessarily your guy. Go to Mark the Wood Whisperer or Matt Cremona or Jay Bates, or some of those, Nick Ferry, some of those guys that are fine woodworkers. Go to those guys if you really want to know how to finish furniture. I finish signs. My sign, although this happens to be a piece of furniture, it's a bar top, but I think they're going to put a piece of glass on top of it. But the same finishing process that I use on signs outside, all I care about is that they last and they look really good when they're done. But it's not a piece of fine furniture. So you guys probably have a lot more knowledge when it comes to finishing fine furniture and stuff like that. This is a sign that's going to go outside, or normal, 99 times out of 100, this happens to be a bar top. So anyway, I do that. I just kind of smooth it down, then I take my hand and go over it, most of the time with a bare hand, but I got my gloves on, and it feels pretty smooth. Now I'm just going to take my air hose and blow off the excess. Now on this particular one, I've got 3 coats of that spray can on the back side. Being this is going to be inside and it's a bar top, I'm not concerned about putting a brush coat on the back side. I want a really nice even gloss finish on the front coat. Did I just see a raindrop? I hope that was not what I just saw. Anyway, so I'm just going to put a brush coat of this stuff on the front. This is the same stuff I've been using. It's just in in a brush coat or in a, in a can, we may be trying to beat the rain here. And unfortunately, I had a good brush, but I don't know what happened to it. This is just a cheap brush. I would rather use a better brush than this, but I just don't have it right now. I'm gonna have to pick another one up, a 10 or 15 or $20 brush. Now what I do down in the background here, you're going to see that the stuff kind of puddles a little bit, but don't worry about that. It will even out. It will flow, and it will even out. Across here?
Yeah.
Not the edge, but the... Yeah, it's right there, huh? Yeah. But what I do is, once I get the coat on the whole thing, then I go back and I brush the whole thing evenly from side to side. Just make sure you get... Well, hi again, folks. Guess what we did? We somehow let the batteries go dead on one of our microphone boxes. And being that is the case, now we're doing a voiceover. So what I am doing here, so you might want to adjust your sound up, because it tends to really go low, so you might have to adjust your sound accordingly. So from here on out, for the next 4 or 5 minutes, I'll be doing a voiceover kind of describing what I'm doing here. So the main thing that you want to remember when you're doing a sign, especially if it's going outside, which almost always my signs are, is make sure you get the edge, and that's what I'm doing here. The top edge even more than the bottom, because if it has water hitting it outside, if it's not underneath an overhang. So I'm going on here and just brushing the top edge, and then I'll go back and try and catch the drips. I generally do this from the other side, but I didn't want to get in front of the camera. So all 4 edges, I generally put a finish on the whole surface and then go back and do the edges like I'm doing here all the way around, and then I'll go back and do an even brush coat from side to side to make sure that we don't have any brush marks on the front. When you're putting a brush coat in the background in all that black texture, don't worry about it too much puddling up a little bit more places than other places, because it will all flow out. As long as you've got your sign set fairly level, then it will all flow out evenly. You just don't want to... Oh, this is funny. This is where we discover that we don't have sound. So we went for a minute or two, and now I'm checking my box to see if I have the sound turned on. So, don't mind our confusion here. But anyway, as long as your sign is set somewhat level, it's funny watching us go back and forth. I guess this is a good reason for me to be able to talk with my hands. Anyway, just make sure that you've got a good coat on the edges all the way around. And if you do get drips on the back after it has already dried and everything, I don't worry about that much. I'll just slice them off. If I don't like the way it looks, I'll slice them off with a razor knife or something. Now, what my plan is, after this brush coat dries, there I'm trying to test the sound again, and it's futile because our batteries went dead on our receiver on the camera itself. My batteries in my box are working fine, but the batteries on the receiver are completely dead. So we're still learning this, guys. Obviously, we're not professionals at making films, so apologize. So back to don't worry about the level of the finish, will flow out, and I'm just going around trying to catch all those drips. The other thing is that After this thing dries, now you can see I'm going back and forth, side to side, just to try and get an even coat and make sure there's no real brush strokes on there where I've stopped halfway through. But after this it dries, depending on how it looks, I may go back and put one or two spray coats on just to give it a real uniform look. And then the other thing is I'm going back looking for little spots on there, little things that the wind may have blown on the sign because we're outside. So I think that is about it. And what I'm talking about here is I actually in my paint can there, or my finish can, I drilled some holes. That's what I'm talking about there with my hands. I actually drilled some holes so that that finish drains back down into the can itself, and it doesn't dry in there, and it makes for a better deal. So hope this was helpful, guys. We'll see you next week. Thanks again.